Hi, friends. Welcome back. I'm Emily,
And I'm Whitney.
and you're listening to Cousins Talk Crime. So, Whitney, what was your week like living in the Stone Ages because we lost internet?
It wasn't fun. I don't like not having internet.
No,
Because at my house, I don't have any signal, so my phone wouldn't work at all.
I don't have any cell phone service either.
So I couldn't even do anything.
I don't get it. It's 2024. Why
Right.
do...
Do you have Verizon?
Yeah,
That's what I have.
yeah.
It's wonderful. The weird thing is, though, I have bars.
I'll have like one little bitty bar.
I have full bars,
And
but it can't do my internet. I tried all the settings, yeah. It's always been like that there.
That's weird.
But it works anywhere else, but not at my house. But full bars. Yeah.
That's very strange.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if our internet goes out, we are like cut off from the world.
Yeah.
I can hardly even get a text message out. There was one time, I don't know if you remember it, but it was last year when that really big tornado hit Sullivan.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so like the day after, every cell phone service went down. Our internet went down. And so I was on my way home from Bloomington, and my husband was at work, and he couldn't get a hold of me to know I even made it home okay.
Yeah.
And I remember your mom was out too, and your dad literally went out looking for her. I remember her telling me about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had to drive all the way to Linton to hop on my parents' Wi-Fi so that I could text my husband and let him know I'm okay.
Oh my gosh.
It was
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. Crazy. Like we're living in the future. Why do
Right.
we not have cell phone service everywhere?
I do not know.
Weird. Anyway, anything big happen for you this week? Besides that,
No. Pretty boring week.
just same stuff, different days.
Yeah.
Mine too. I'm in like this never-ending cycle. So last time we recorded, her sister, Mike, and my other cousin were about to have babies. And my other cousin had her baby, very early baby, but they're doing good. They're probably going to be in the hospital for a while, but they're doing good. I got a picture today of her actually getting to hold him for the first time,
Aww.
which was very sweet. How's Ash and her?
They're
New one
good. They're home. He's adorable.
Of course. I wouldn't expect anything else.
They named him Apollo.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's different. It's
That
cute
was one of
though.
the ones you told me the other day, right? Is that one of the ones you suggested?
Yeah.
Oh, I
I
bet
put
sister
a
feels
bunch on
proud.
a list. It was the day they were going in because they still didn't have a name and they picked one off the list. So I was like, if I never wrote that list, that wouldn't be the name.
Yeah.
He'd be named something else.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah.
That
So
is,
I picked the name. Even though I gave him a list, I still picked the name, I feel like.
yeah, you did. You absolutely did. I remember before my nephew was born, my brother and sister-in-law were talking about names that they liked. Oh, there was a god-awful one, and I'm not going to say what it is, just in case someone here knows someone with this name. But oh,
Right.
I'm so glad that's not his name. It was so bad. But that was like Matthew's favorite name. And I'm like, ugh,
Yeah.
it's the worst. It was Bob. No, I'm just kidding.
You'll have to tell me when we're not recording.
Yeah, I will. But I have, so it's taken us a while to get everything kind of put together. So on the Patreon, you have different tiers and memberships and stuff like that. So at a certain tier membership, you get a cute little rubber duck that sits in the background of our stream And you get to hang out with us while we're recording all the time. So that is just our fun little thing that we do. So we actually have 5 ducks.
Yay.
5 freaking ducks. But for some reason I was thinking it was 6.
Are you missing somebody?
I hope I'm not missing anybody. Because maybe I thought it was 4, but then it was 5. Maybe that's what it was. Anyway, we have 5. And I'm super excited. So we're going to name those off and we're going to add them to our little shelves. This is Susan. Susan, if you're watching, this is you. You're the tiger duck. If you don't like the duck you were chosen, well, sorry. This is Luann. You're the little giraffe duck. I don't even know what kind of duck this is. This is Corey. Not my Corey. This is a different Corey. And then Debbie. And then Jennifer.
Aww.
So your guys' support means the absolute world to us. We are going to use your guys' support to help improve this podcast in any way that we can. I think our first round of business is going to be cameras. Oh, wow, right on cue. Right on cue.
Her camera just cut out. Well, her phone. Her iPhone.
Oh my gosh, that's hysterical.
That we use as a camera.
That's crazy. Yeah, I use my iPhone as a camera because I don't have another camera. So, yeah, that's what we're going to be investing in first, I believe. So let me add these to you want to add a couple of them to yours?
Yeah. There we go.
Hopefully they can be seen in my shot. They're kind of small. I apologize, but they're here.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to talk about, I released a bonus episode. So if you haven't, go over and check that out. It is Murder at the House at the top of the Grismore Hill, and it's just south of Grandview Cemetery in Bloomfield, Indiana. And this is known as the Old Blue House Murder. And I guess it's like this haunted location in Bloomfield, Indiana, but I got the real story on what happened there, and it's pretty tragic. So go check that out if you haven't, because it's a good one.
Yeah, it was. It was a good one. Yeah, and to listen to that, it is exclusive on Patreon.
Yep.
For our, I believe, no, I'm confident. It is the Hello Dear Friend tier.
Okay.
That tier, yes. So if you're part of that tier, you can go listen to the bonus episode or any other tiers that are like higher than that one. Anyway, but we can go ahead and slide into the next case. The next one is kind of a little different than what I typically bring to the table. I'm usually bringing solved murders, serial killers, that kind of stuff. And the case that I'm bringing this week is actually of a student that went to Indiana University. His name was Joseph Smedley. If you've heard his story before, you're going to understand why people talk about this. But if you haven't heard Joseph's story before, it's definitely a good one to listen to. And a lot of people have differences of opinions on what has happened within this case. So I will just go ahead and tell you his story. Now, most of the information I got came from the Herald Times, which is a local newspaper to Bloomington. And then Investigation Discovery also did like an excerpt on this as well. And I did speak to his sister Vivianne to confirm all of this information, that it was correct. So we will just get in it.
I'm excited to hear this one.
Yeah, it's so sad. Honestly, very sad. So Joseph Smedley, he was born on March 27th, 1995 to Lori and Joe Smedley. He had 2 older siblings, Randy and Vivianne, and 1 younger sibling, Giselle. Now, he and his siblings grew up in the Old North Side Historic District of Indianapolis. And Joseph's sister, Vivian, described Joseph as very intelligent. The type of like Sheldon Cooper type intelligent. Like, he was just very intelligent. He had a very dry sense of humor and was really, really quirky. She gave me this story of him, and she said that this is kind of what blew her mind as a kid, knowing like how smart her brother was. So one time when they were vacationing, they were at the beach somewhere, I can't remember where. He was probably only 6 or 7 years old. And she remembers Joseph taking his glasses off and using like the beam from the sun to burn a hole in a coconut.
Oh my gosh.
And then he was able to drink out of it.
That's
She's
crazy.
like, how does a 6-year-old know how to do that?
Right.
I'm like, maybe he learned it from Miss Frizzle on the Magic School Bus. But yeah, she just like, that was kind of what told her as a kid, oh, my brother's really smart. And growing up, Joseph idolized Ben Carson. If you don't know who Ben Carson is, he's the neurosurgeon that separated the conjoined twins that were conjoined on the back of the head. Like, that was who he idolized as a child. Very smart kid. He did have dreams of becoming a neurosurgeon himself, but that's not what he ended up majoring in college. So I'm not sure what got him off that track, but when he went to IU, he wanted to study to be a pharmacist and was studying biochemistry. So at the time of his death, he was in his sophomore year at IU. In Joseph's teenage years, his parents got divorced and was really, really hard on him. His parents involved the kids in the divorce. They made him choose sides, were the kind of ones that openly talked about the other parent. Just, it wasn't good. And he really resented his parents for doing that. So instead of choosing a side, he chose neither. Like, this doesn't feel like love that you should be giving your child. So Joseph's mom ended up packing up and moving away from the family. So I don't know if the kids chose to live with dad and mom decided to pack up and leave, or if mom just made the decision for the kids and pack up and leave. I'm not sure about that. But I think Vivianne said that she moved to the Virgin Islands. St. Thomas. I think it was St. Thomas. But like I said, I'm not sure who made that decision and what. Now, Joseph's father ended up getting remarried, and he got married to a woman that the kids did not get along with at all. She was not open and accepting of his family, from what I heard, and she really alienated dad away from the kids. The sister told me, Vivianne did tell me, that stepmom and dad changed the locks on Joseph, like to where he couldn't even get into his own house, and he was forced to move in with some friends. And they claim that Joseph moved out on his own, but she said they changed the locks on him, so they forced him to move.
Was he in college at this time or no?
No, he's still a kid. He's 16 years old. Can you imagine locking your child out at 16?
No.
Expecting them to be a full-grown adult?
And then your mom has moved to...
Poor kid. I mean, him and his siblings are very, very close. They went through a lot as kids, I think, when it came to that. And it really made their bond really strong. But I guess in 2012, when Joseph was 16, he became legally emancipated. So he's like, I'm going to move in with a friend and I don't want anything to do with that. Now, I did ask Vivianne what her opinion was on it because, he's 16. That's got to be, I don't know how that was. And she said she thought it was really good for him. His home life was pretty toxic of them changing the locks and whatnot. And she said that the friend that he moved in with when he was 16, his family was very, very open, and they took him in and treated him like their own. It was just a great situation. And she says that they helped him thrive and put him on a good track for success.
That's good.
Yeah. And like I said, him and his siblings remained very, very close. Now, we can fast forward to his college years. Joseph decided to apply and was accepted at Indiana University. There he was studying biochemistry, wanted to be a pharmacist. I had mentioned that earlier. And at IU, Joseph joined the Sigma Pi fraternity. And like most college kids, he struggled financially. Vivianne said that they were both so broke that they would like transfer $10 to each other, and then like a week later they're like, hey, can I have that $10 back? Like she's
Yeah.
like, we've all felt
Yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Not a good feeling.
like they were broke, but nothing major. I think anybody in their 20s can relate to that one. I did read some articles involving his school, and I did see in the Herald Times where Indiana University made a statement after Joseph went missing. I don't know if this was released after Joseph went missing or after Joseph was found, but they made a statement saying that Joseph had been absent in class all semester, implying the fact that he hadn't attended any of his classes. And so that was kind of a red flag to me because
So he just stopped going to class.
he just wasn't going to class. Now, when I talked to Vivianne about it, she said Joseph was in good standing with all of his teachers. He just may not have been going to class, but he was still doing the homework. He was still doing the tests and stuff. He just wasn't going to lectures where they were giving boring PowerPoints or whatever. When you are someone that is very smart, maybe he already knows this information that the teachers are trying to teach him and it's boring.
Yeah.
Why go waste your time?
So when they made that comment, did they say he was still actively like participating in class, or
I
just that he
didn't see
wasn't
that.
going
I
to
just saw
class?
that, and there were different articles that I read because one of them, the Herald Times, stated that Indiana University said he hadn't attended any of his classes. And then I saw one that said he hadn't attended any of his classes the week he went missing. And then I saw some that say he wasn't even enrolled. There's some differencing articles. So I'm going to go by what the Herald Times said and then
What his sister told you.
and then kind of how the sister explained it. So it was kind of a red flag. If he wasn't going to class, that could possibly mean something was going on. Who knows what it would have been, but something may have been going on. I don't know. But it's just one of those little things that kind of popped out to me as I was reading. It was kind of a little red flag. Now, Joseph had an apartment in Bloomington that Vivianne had co-signed for him. She told me she didn't realize that she was co-signing when she co-signed, but she did co-sign. Now, the apartment was expensive, but everything in Bloomington is. If you know anything about Bloomington, it's astronomical over there. So to help with his living expenses, Joseph and some of his frat brothers from Sigma Pi decided to get an apartment together or a house and split the rent. So doing this was going to break Joseph's lease or his contract for his apartment. And on September 21st, 2015, his sister Vivianne got a call from Joseph's landlord. And he was telling her that she owed him $680 for Joseph breaking this lease. I don't know if the landlord had been trying to get this money out of Joseph for a while, and that's why they finally reached out to Vivianne. I don't know. But Vivianne said that she got a hold of Joseph and just said, hey, she was in the process of trying to buy a house. She's like, I can't have... You got to pay this. I can't have that hit my credit right now. I'm trying to buy a house. So he was like, I've got the money. I will take it. And he was supposed to take it on September 28th. That was the deadline. He was just going to wait until the 28th to take it. So whatever. There's nothing like waiting until the last minute. And she said she called and checked in with him every single day. Like, are you sure you're going to have the money? Because if you're not going to have the money, let me know. I will try to scrounge something up. Because I can't let this hit my credit. But he promised her that he was going to do it. Now, on September 28th, 2015, which is the day he was supposed to send in the money, Vivianne woke up to a really strange text message from Joseph. And it stated that he was leaving the country, not to call her, and he would be in touch whenever he was settled in. He's just leaving the country. That's what she wakes up to.
That's bizarre.
Yeah.
Nothing about the money, or
No, nothing about the money. It's just I'm leaving the country. And I'm pretty sure in the text, I haven't seen the text. I know she's got pictures of it.
Yeah.
I just haven't gotten those yet. But I think the text also said something about like, I have to do this in order to protect you or something. I don't know. So I'm thinking, what has he gotten into?
Mm-hmm.
Has he gotten into drugs? Is he,
Yeah.
I don't know, is he selling weed or something? And
Yeah. And this
he
was
did
the
something.
28th?
Yeah. She got it about 4 a.m. on the 28th. Yeah, he sent it to her at 4 a.m. Now, Vivianne thought it was a joke. She thought it was his dry humor. Like, she knew it was his day that he was supposed to pay this rent. So he's like, he's telling me he's going to leave the country.
Right.
As a joke.
Yeah.
And she sends him a text message back, just like, LOL, shut up. You know?
Right. Like, okay.
Yeah,
funny.
like, shut up.
Yeah.
This is hilarious. And now when he didn't respond to her, she tried calling a few times and went straight to voicemail. And so she decided to end up calling. I don't know how late in the morning this was or if it was afternoon, but she ended up calling the landlord to be like, did Joseph bring the money? And then the landlord was like, no, he didn't bring the money. And she's like, oh, something's wrong here because he promised me. She took him for his word. Like, they were very close. He wouldn't just lie to her to lie.
Yeah.
She's still thinking that he's pulling one over on her.
Mm-hmm.
So she decides after she talks to the landlord that she was going to call the campus police as a prank on him. Like, he's pulling a prank on me. Well, I'm going to pull one right back. I'm going to call the campus police and make them, like, pull him out of class or something.
Yeah.
And, like, embarrass him in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And the campus police are like, can't find him.
So he wasn't in his apartment, or did they look there?
I don't know when they went to his apartment.
Campus.
Yeah, I think they just maybe went to the classes. I don't know specifics on that. But the police did end up telling Vivianne after a little amount of time that Joseph was in jail. She was like really confused because she's like, Joseph is like a really good kid. I don't know why he would be in jail. And they're like, yeah, just call down to this jail and he's in there and you can bail him out.
Who was telling her that?
The police.
Oh.
The police were telling him he was in jail, that he was arrested. And she calls down to the jail and they're like, we don't have him. So she calls back to the police and they're like, oh yeah, we took him there ourselves. And so,
is this on the same day?
Yeah. Yeah. This was all that day. I'm pretty sure this was all that very first day. And she said this was hours of back and forth between the police and the jail. And they ended up finding out that they didn't have Joseph Smedley. They had like a Jonathan Smedley. And I'm like, how did the police get this wrong? Because this is someone that's missing a loved one and you just gave them hope that their loved one was...
That's pretty close in names, though, to be honest. That's pretty random that...
It is.
Yeah.
But, man, I'm like, how do they get that wrong?
Right.
Especially after a ton of calls back and forth. Like, you would have think the second time they call, you would have double-checked your stuff. Now, on September 29th, which is the next day, Joseph was officially reported missing. So, I guess I should give a little bit of an idea. September 28th was a Monday. So, we're on a Tuesday now.
Okay.
Now, they did talk to his frat brothers that he lived with. And they said that they last saw Joseph around 11:30 Sunday night at their apartment. And these are the last known people that have record of seeing him. And according to the phone pings that they got off of Joseph's phone, he was kind of all around downtown Bloomington that night. And he disappeared on Old State Road 37. And the police brought in scent tracking dogs to try to locate him. And they didn't have any luck. I don't know. It was just weird.
So downtown was like his last known location.
Yeah, kind of. kind of right across. Because you know how, like, downtown and then you have the interstate that goes up and
Yeah.
then the road that goes, like,
Yeah.
over towards the, like, Ellettsville or to the stadium.
Yeah.
Like, past that road, just
Okay.
north, I think, is where it is. But the scent tracking dogs didn't find anything, which is a little strange to me, but that's what I read. Phone records also indicated that he was in a moving vehicle. Like, he was getting to these pings fast enough to, like, prove he was in a moving vehicle. But Joseph didn't have a car at the time. So,
And what year was this?
2015.
So did they have Uber then, or?
I think they did.
Okay.
I think they had Uber in 2015.
I think it was probably a newer
It
thing,
probably
though.
was. Because I remember when me and a friend of mine stadium hopping
Yeah.
for baseball, like 2 years in a row, and it would have been the 2015 season and the 2016 season, and
you
we were
did
taking
Ubers.
Ubers then.
Did they look if they had any records of that?
Yeah, she did. She says he has no card transactions, no receipts, nothing with any kind of ride service. So unless he had cash on his person, he didn't have any kind of receipts for that. So it is likely that someone was with him.
Right. During those times.
Yeah, that night.
Did he drink? Did he go out and stuff?
We're not for sure the exact events of the night because I don't think people are telling the full truth about what happened. So we don't know exactly what happened the night, but he did have alcohol in his system. But the IU police brought in assistance from other agencies, including the Bloomington Police Department, the Indiana State Police, the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police, the FBI, and the Department of Homeland Security and other local agencies. So, I mean, they were all hands on deck trying to find him.
Yeah.
They really were. And on Friday, October 2nd, so just a few days later that week, 2 local fishermen came across a badly decomposed body in Griffey Lake in Bloomington.
This was just 2 days later? Or did you say 2 weeks later?
No, like 4 days, I think. He went missing Sunday night, and he was found on Friday.
Okay.
So they found him in Griffey Lake in Bloomington, which is where I kind of mentioned, like right above, like right north of that road that goes over to the mall. The body was confirmed to be Joseph. And when Joseph was found, he had 66 pounds of rocks stuffed in a backpack, and it was strapped to his chest. And he had binoculars around his neck. Like, what are your initial thoughts if someone's found with a backpack full of rocks?
They were murdered.
See, your mind's not going to... I should give a trigger warning. We will be talking about suicide. So if that is something that you cannot listen to, this episode's going to talk about it. So I'm sorry. We'll catch you on the next one.
To me, anyone who's been murdered gets weighted down if they don't want the body to come up. So I would immediately think foul play was involved. If he was, did you say 60 pounds?
66 pounds of rocks.
Just strapped to you. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why anyone, even wanting to, say, commit suicide, would think to go out that way. But that's just me. I don't know if we could look up people that jump off it, but I don't know any of them that, do they strap themselves down? Is that like a known, do you know?
I don't know. I do know that the Golden Gate Bridge is a very common form of suicide. But I don't know when people jump in if they're weighing themselves down or if the fall itself is what kills people. Or I don't know. I don't know.
That to me just screams foul play.
It does. It seems like a terrible way to go. And
because if you're alive and you're jumping with that weight, I mean, that's like my worst fear. It's like drowning. Like, I don't know why you'd put yourself through that.
Yeah, it's agonizing. It's not a peaceful death at all.
No.
It's not a peaceful death. I think even if you don't have access to a gun, there are other ways to do that
That's
than
quicker.
that's quicker and less agonizing than.
No, I just can't imagine picking that way.
No, me neither.
Terrifying.
Yeah, and he had binoculars around his neck. That one kind of threw me off too. I'm like, why did he have binoculars around his neck?
Yeah, that's bizarre.
I mean, there is a reason for it. I'll get to it in the story, but that immediately was like a red flag to me too. I'm like, were there marks on his neck? Was he
Yeah.
strangled or anything? But I don't think that was ever a suspicion at all because no one ever mentioned it in anything that I read. When they found him, the family went into like protective mode, like, who would do this to Joseph? Their brain never went to suicide. Like, that was not anything that ever
Cross their mind.
crossed their mind. It was someone did this to Joseph. And so we're going to go on back on the timeline just a little bit. In the evening that Joseph was last seen by his roommates on September 27th, they stated they last saw him at 11:30 p.m. at their house. Now, there was a lunar eclipse that evening. So that's why he has the binoculars.
Okay.
There was a lunar eclipse, and the roommates had mentioned watching the lunar eclipse with Joseph. But the timeline's not matching up for them to have watched it with Joseph and get all the way back to their house by 11:30. So from a resource I found, the eclipse lasted well after 11:30 p.m. So I feel like that's a fib.
Yeah.
We're fibbing in the story.
Yeah.
We definitely saw him after 11:30 p.m.
Yeah.
Now, in Joseph's toxicology report, they did find alcohol and THC in his system. So it made me wonder if they were having a party of some kind at Griffey Lake. Vivianne said that Griffey Lake was a place that Joseph went to frequently, that it was like a hangout for IU students.
Is that where his body was found?
That's where his body was found. And so with the alcohol and the THC in his system, we're thinking maybe there was some kind of party going on out there, people watching the eclipse. Maybe an accident happened. I don't know. And they tried to cover it up as a suicide. Not sure. Now, if we go back on and look at the text message that Vivianne received from Joseph at 4 a.m. on the 28th, she says it's completely out of character for Joseph. He was close to all of his siblings, not just Vivianne. He was really close to his younger sister Giselle as well. So the fact that he only sent this text message to Vivianne, it was red flags to her.
Yeah.
If it was really Joseph, he would have sent it to Giselle as well. It makes you wonder if it's someone that kind of knows Joseph, but not well enough to know who he's close with.
Yeah.
Now, days after Joseph's disappearance, a letter was found by the roommates that was written by Joseph.
That's bizarre.
I don't know where this letter magically came from, but they didn't give it to police right away. They found it at a later date. But when they found it, it was like just sitting on his desk. And
So it was in plain sight.
yeah, it was in plain sight. It's not like it was hidden somewhere. And the handwritten letter pretty much stated the same thing as the text message, was that he was leaving the country and not to call, and he would get a hold of everybody whenever he got settled across, in the other country, wherever he was going. I don't know which country he was going to. But it's just too unlike Joseph for his family to believe that he was the one that did this.
Right.
Like, this isn't something that he would say. No. His sister said he had really, really big plans for his future of pharmacy and all kinds of things, and always talked about what he was going to do after he graduated. It's not like he didn't have dreams and aspirations. Like, he had big dreams. So to just throw that away to flee to the country just doesn't make sense to them. And the handwriting was really sloppy. It wasn't anything like his handwriting at all. Now, I asked Vivianne if the police took handwriting samples from the roommates. And as far as she knows, they did not take handwriting samples, which is odd to me.
Yeah. You would think they would do that if it doesn't look like his. They would try to figure out whose handwriting it is.
Yeah. But they never treated this case as
Anything,
foul play.
Yeah.
So they didn't feel the need to take handwriting samples or this or that. Now, there was another oddity that surfaced during Joseph's disappearance. And this happened before he was found. So this happened the week before he was found. Another Indiana University student was killed. I think it's very odd that two kids from the same university were murdered. They weren't just, it wasn't an accident.
Yeah.
She was murdered. I do not know how to say the name, so I apologize. But it looks like Yaolin Wang. She was shot and killed by her boyfriend, and then he immediately turned the gun on himself. So it was a murder-suicide, and I asked his sister if she ever thought that they might be connected, and she doesn't think so. But my conspiracy brain is just like, I can't. How did two kids from the same small school get killed in the same week?
Yeah.
My brain just can't help but think of scenarios like, was she cheating on this guy with Joseph, and then he killed Joseph, killed her, and then shot himself? I don't know. That's just what my brain is thinking.
Yeah.
And I guess the boyfriend of this girl was very abusive, like known to be very abusive, which is really sad because she had like gotten away from him at some point. And then probably the minute she opened the door back for him, he killed her. Joseph's cause of death was ruled as a drowning. There was no other ruling in that. They found alcohol, THC, and Benadryl in his system. And like I said, I feel like this also tells you they were having some kind of party. Some kind of watch party for this solar eclipse. After his body was found, Vivianne immediately started raising money to hire an independent pathologist. I don't know. No matter the circumstances, we should always get a second opinion, but she didn't. She just immediately knew that she was going to want a second opinion, so she started raising money for that.
Did they rule it a drowning, or what was the cause of death? I mean, I know they said suicide, but did they say?
Yeah, the ruling is drowning.
Okay.
Yeah.
To me, if you can tell he drowned, how can you just immediately go to suicide? Because, I mean,
I don't know.
You could be put, you know what I'm saying?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's weird to me.
But she said the pathologist that they hired would not be able to look at Joseph and conduct their own report until the coroner released the autopsy. So they had to have Joseph refrigerated for a few months. She said that was very weird. And 2 months after he was discovered in Griffey Lake, the coroner ruled Joseph's death as a suicide. And the police chose to treat the case as such, and they closed it. They were done. Like, they weren't going to look into anything. The coroner said it was suicide, so therefore it's suicide.
So when she hired her own pathologist, what did that come about?
The pathologist was the one that found the Benadryl in the system.
Yeah.
And the pathologist is, he found...
Did he find...
He found hemorrhaging on Joseph's back. And so I asked Vivianne, because I don't know medical terms. I was like, what does that mean? Hemorrhaging on the back. She's like, it just means that it was an accident. That he either fell into the water on accident and died, or someone pushed him down. So that's what it would have to be. That's what she told me. He couldn't have just like laid in the water and accepted. You know what I mean? Like, he either fell on accident or someone pushed him down. Now, Vivianne was... I asked her what she thought about the autopsy, and she said she was honestly, like, really offended by it. Because she felt that she knew Joseph really well, and this was not something that he would do.
Yeah.
Like I said, he had big plans, he had a bright future, and he showed no signs of depression. Now, I will say, there are a lot of people that have committed suicide that do not show the signs, but she just is not... There's too much stuff surrounding this that are suspicious. That, I mean, I agree with her. I don't think that this was simply just a suicide. I don't think it is. It's very strange. There's too many weird things surrounding it. And she said that the only reasoning they had behind determining that it was a suicide was the fact that Joseph was wearing a backpack filled with rocks. I don't know.
That's like the opposite to me.
I know. So Vivian did her own research. She walked around the area that he was found and she tried finding 66 pounds of rocks to put in a backpack. She
Mm-hmm.
said it's impossible. There's not that many rocks. Like, there's no rocks around there. So she's confused where he got the rocks.
And just brought him with him.
Yeah. They said in order for this theory to work, Joseph walked from his house, picking up rocks along the way and just jumping off this bridge. And they just don't think that he did it.
But so I think I just kind of looked it up and the hemorrhage, in an autopsy, and it says drowning basically is what but I don't know. It's
don't
probably what you
either.
said too. But to me, someone could have strapped that on him and pushed him off the bridge.
Yeah. Well, listen to this little
Because I mean, you
fact.
can't tell the difference. I'm sorry, if someone jumps in or is pushed in.
Yeah. Now
He
little.
could have been alive when he was, and maybe loopy from the Benadryl.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
We got the mosquito truck going by.
But I mean, you could be loopy, but if you're gonna jump or someone's pushing you, it's the same motion, or someone throwing you off, you could still drown and hemorrhage. I feel like either scenario. It's basically which one's more, because he could have been alive when they pushed him. It seems that way if he drowned.
So here's the little fact that I found that makes me solely think this is not a suicide. Okay? This is the piece for me. Where he was found, the water was only 5 feet deep. And he was like 5'7", 5'8". Now, in my opinion, I could be wrong, and so please point it out if I'm wrong. But I feel like if someone is committing suicide in this way, you will have this sense, this will to live come over you, and it is going to overpower your will to die. You know what I mean? Like, even if he was trying to commit suicide, he could have easily stood up, or he could have easily removed the backpack. I feel like if in that moment you're dying and you're gasping for breath, your will to live is going to overtake that, and you're going to take the backpack off and get a breath.
Now, was the backpack like strapped to him or just put on? Do you know?
I think it's just put on.
It's just put
It
on.
may have been kind of tight, but anybody that wears a backpack on a regular basis knows how to.
Yeah.
It's not hard to loosen the straps on a backpack.
Now, the area where he was found, do they believe that's where he jumped off at? Or I don't know this, could he, does it move?
Well, that's the only
'Cause
bridge. When I looked at the satellite image of Griffey Lake, there is only one bridge. And so this would have been where it had to be, and that's where he was found. But like I said, I just don't think someone's will to live will allow them just to lay there and die. Unless he was so drunk and sleepy on Benadryl that he couldn't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't either. I feel like you would want to be okay, I can't do this. In this case scenario for this situation. If that's really how he was trying to go out. I don't believe the whole note thing. I don't believe that he would just say, I'm going out of the country, I'm sorry. I think he would have gave a proper goodbye to the people he cared about.
Yeah, and someone as smart as him, I don't think would come up with such a goofy story. I'm leaving the country. He's a smart guy.
To protect you from what?
He's not going to come up with that crazy story.
No, and I don't know. If they were so close, if you're going to tell your family anything before you do that, I don't think you're going to make up some, like you said, story.
Yeah.
I don't feel like people say anything at all. You know what I mean? It's nothing, or they, you get something. That doesn't make any sense to me. Nor does putting a backpack on with rocks and drowning.
It doesn't to me either. It really doesn't. But like I said, the police treated this as a suicide, never cared to investigate it any further. In 2020, the family opened a petition calling for Bloomington PD to reopen the case. They received over 120,000 signatures on it, and the request to reopen was denied.
Why?
I don't know if there's just not enough evidence pointing at. I don't know.
So 120,000 people signed it, and they're like, no, we're good.
She says that there's a bill that was passed called the Family Victim Rights Act or something like that. I'm sorry if I wrote it down wrong. And it reserves families the right to have their case reviewed or reinvestigated. And she did say that they like brought her in and she was sitting down in front of a panel of people and they were super like cold. They showed zero empathy and just were pretty much like, we're not. And the conspiracy in me thinks IU's had some bad press the past 10 some years with Lauren Spear, with Jill Bierman. We talked about her in episode 1. We talked about Joseph, and then that girl died that week. And what if they're trying to be like, well, if it looks like a suicide, let's keep it that way so that we don't look like
like IU campus is a place somewhere and people go and they get killed.
Yeah, or unsafe. Joseph's father was estranged, like I had said. They didn't get along. But I guess when Joseph was found or went missing, his dad just kind of came into it like, oh, like he'd been there the whole time.
Of course he did. That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. And Vivianne said that she finally gave up and was like, okay, you do your thing, I'm going to do mine. Whatever you want to do, whatever you want to talk to people about, you go right ahead. I'm going to do my own thing. But his father did state, I can't remember where I got this one from, but it says, does it make sense to you that somebody that was supposedly wants to commit suicide would roam around in the woods in the dark, put on a backpack, pick up rocks to weigh themselves down, and then jump off into a lake that has an average depth of 3 feet?
No.
I mean, where he was found was 5 feet. That's still plenty of room to stand up.
Yeah.
And my thing is if it was truly 5 feet deep, if he jumped off, he would have some kind of bruising or something to like his ankles where he hit the ground, unless he fell on his back or something.
I mean, you can hit the water at different ways.
Yeah, but it being so, I feel like if you're jumping in, it being so shallow, you're going to have bruising somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, that's all I have on Joseph's story. No one, his family hasn't had anybody even play around with the fact of opening this and looking at it as a homicide.
Did you say there was an investigation discovery episode or something on it? Or am I making that up?
Nope, I did.
And what, have you watched it?
I haven't.
I wonder, do they allude to the fact that it could be something besides that?
I would say probably if they were bringing it in, they're not going to just bring in a suicide, one that they really think is.
Yeah.
But
you would think with that kind of attention, they might want to at least try to reopen it and be like, look, this is why, come up with, I don't feel like they have a lot of evidence for a suicide. Leaving the country note isn't like a suicide note.
No. So, Vivianne actually has agreed to come in on the podcast.
Oh, the sister.
Yeah. So if you have any questions, save those for her. Okay. And we will, we're just going to transition to our call with Vivianne, like right here.
Hey, Hello. Vivianne. Hi,
Hi,
Vivianne.
Travis.
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Okay, so um, I know Whitney's got some questions, but I thought the first thing that we could do is maybe just you tell us about Joseph, what it was like growing up with him, what his biggest goals in life were, the type of person he wanted to be to people, just give us a
hmm
rundown of how Joseph is.
Yeah, so Joseph was just like really like kind-hearted person. He really was kind of the person that would stand up for others, and he's extremely intelligent. Right, we always used to joke and call him the little boy genius, just because of all of the just he's just so smart and the way that he just like comprehended things at his level. Just even in like first grade, kindergarten, like he's just so smart. So. He also just was very determined. He once he had his mindset on something, he always just followed through with it. So I just always knew like he never backed down from anything, from a challenge. And yeah, he just overall really likable person, funny, really, really funny. He just always made people laugh, and he had this really kind of like dry humor stuff. It's like you don't really get initially, but then you do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
once you get to
So
know him a little bit, he he
yeah, yeah.
he shows his
So
quirks.
hmm
Awesome. Well, when going over his case, I think Whitney and I both had the same kind of opinion about what it is, which and I think we share with you, is that something here is suspicious, that it's not what it seems. And I did, when I was kind of looking at your Facebook page, the Justice for Joseph Facebook page, I
hmm
saw I saw a picture of his Twitter profile at the time that he passed, saying
Yeah.
something about if found dead in police custody, it wasn't suicide, and I don't want peaceful protests.
hmm
That's wow. I mean, what do you take from that? Like, what do you think could have been going on?
I know that was around the time that there were some protests for someone else who
Oh,
was found dead in police custody, but I also think that he put that there intentionally.
hmm
I think that you never know what kind of day you're going to end up having, especially as a Black male in the police system and things like
Hmm.
that. So I think that was kind of his way of saying, like, I'm mentally sound, and if I commit
yeah.
suicide, then there's suspicion around it. And I think that I love that he put that because that just kind of is proof there that like Joseph's just not the kind of person to give up that easily.
hmm
So
No.
Yeah, and that did
I
that
think
that kind of
after when I started, even her first like 30 minutes of telling the story, I'm like, nothing about this seems like nothing. Like, especially the rocks to me is the most bizarre part of it, I think, putting the
yeah.
backpack on. And so my one of my questions was, I know you got a second autopsy done, and basically they ruled it drowning, correct?
Not the second. Oh yeah, the second one they well, that's they didn't actually make a report, the second report. The first one was death by drowning. But the second autopsy was performed, and then he couldn't come to a ruling because he wasn't able to access the police documents and things that he
Uh-huh.
needed. He said if he had to choose something, it would be between undetermined, or an accident, but definitely not suicide.
Because my biggest thing with the drowning ruling, how can they how can they be so sure that it's suicide drowning? I mean, someone can push you, someone can give you something to make you, you know what I mean, loopy, where if you're pushed off, you're not getting up, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, and
I
he
just
was
don't,
found with a high amount of Benadryl in his system as
yeah, that's
well.
what she told me. Yeah. So how can you be like, oh, it's drowned, it's suicide? I mean, that's just bizarre to me.
Yeah.
Were
yeah.
there any law enforcement over the years that you ever talked to that somewhat maybe agree with you or see your side with it? Like any detectives or anybody that was kind of like, hey, like I think this is
Yeah,
suspicious.
definitely a lot. And from the very beginning, I had a Indiana state prosecutor and Indianapolis detective
who jumped on the case. She's had several other people who were involved. So there's definitely people on the force that find it suspicious. The only thing is like because of the politics in and around Bloomington, none of them really want to speak out publicly about it. I know what one of my closest friends that was working the case, that's an IMPD detective. She didn't feel like very comfortable saying anything until after she was like retired and stuff like that, just because of how they all work together. So that's, I think it's kind of like a boys club in a way, and it's really hard to get anyone to speak out against that group.
Mm-hmm.
That's really sad.
Yeah.
It is really sad.
I haven't watched the investigation Discovery. Is it good? Did you like how they portrayed everything?
Yeah, I think they did a really good job. It was very thorough, and like even with the short period that they had, I think that it was just done very well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll have to jump on there and watch that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's
you
only
were
like half an episode too, because they like split it with someone
Yeah.
else. So I think it's like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
okay. And you were interviewed on that, right? Was your dad
Yes.
also interviewed on that?
Yes.
Okay, so you and your dad both. Okay. And then I also read somewhere too, and I had forgot to bring it up when I talked to you on the Wednesday we chatted on the phone. I feel like I saw this from a statement that maybe your dad made about afraid that it was some kind of racial thing, that the police weren't taking it seriously because maybe, did I read somewhere that it wasn't in the news that he was missing until he was found?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So like, well, so IU didn't really announce it that he was missing, but there were news outlets in Indianapolis that had contacted me once I was like posting on Instagram and all of that. So there were people in Indianapolis, and then some of the students from like the IU paper, they contacted me as well. But as far as like notifying the students
Hmm.
on campus, that did not happen. So like
Wow.
I went to IUPY, which is basically IU, and
Hmm.
I was still a student at the time, and we would get notifications about every like police report, whether it be someone getting mugged, robbed,
Hmm.
like whatever it was, if even
Hmm.
if someone was just assaulted, things like that, we always got updates constantly throughout the day of that
Hmm.
those kind of situations. So it's just surprising to me that you know IU knew from day one that he was missing,
Mhm.
and for a whole 5 days made no communication to the student body. Didn't do really much of anything to help with the search other than IUPD, who I actually did have a decent relationship with IUPD versus BPD, but yeah, it just was really strange that they didn't notify about if because he was reported missing as he was like an official missing person that Monday.
Yeah.
So
That is bizarre.
Yeah. I would think you would tell the students about that. That's weird. Why? That's weird behavior, I think, on
yeah,
Indiana
Or at
University's
that
part.
point, if they don't know what happened, I mean, why didn't they have everyone, you know what I mean, out getting information and looking and spreading the word? That's just weird.
Hmm.
yeah.
So, what do you think the future for Joseph's case looks like? Or what are your hopes for the future?
I hope that there are students that were there during that time that start speaking out because he was part of a fraternity, and I know that they all know what's going on and what happened, or at least a lot of them do, because there's at least 5 or 6 guys that were with him that night, is what I found out. So I just hope that at some point the guilt gets too heavy that they want to talk, because I think that at the end of the day, like I don't think anyone can carry that kind of a weight throughout their whole life. So that would be best case scenario. But as far as the future of the investigation, I think we've tried several different ways to get information And Bloomington Police Department has just been a huge roadblock for us, and because they just don't want to cooperate, they don't want to release any information at all. So, and I don't really know if that's just because they had a lack of resources and they just weren't thorough at all, or if they're just not wanting to spend any more time on it. But they've just made it really difficult, and there's just too many legal loopholes right now. That, like, I've consulted with several attorneys and retained several attorneys, and it's just been extremely difficult. Either because but the politics with Bloomington, where they somehow can't be involved because of they're affiliated or whatever in some way, and they're just afraid to even be on the case. Like, I've had one attorney ghost me because of that right before a court date.
Oh no.
So yeah, it's just been really hard. But I'm hoping that, I can continue to just keep his story out there and in the public. And I feel like as all the followers that, we have, I just think they are a huge piece of keeping this alive by
Mhm.
sharing and listening and talking about it and asking those questions, because I really don't have to formulate an opinion. I think that I can lay out all the facts, and, you guys can lay out all the facts, and everyone that's doing podcasts, and people can clearly see that there's something very wrong about this case.
Yes, there is. There absolutely is. And yeah, you don't even have to do a lot of work laying out the facts before people can form this opinion. And I don't know. It's really sad that they took the coroner's report as suicide and just ran with it and decided not to entertain anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish they would have at least entertained something, you know?
Especially because the person that performed the autopsy was just not even, like, didn't have the right credentials, wasn't thorough, isn't even an like coroner anymore. Like, she works
Oh,
for like, she's as a nurse or something in Indianapolis now.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
Really sad.
it is. Um, and then what can our listeners do to help support? I'm going to share your Facebook page, but
Hmm.
do you still, like, is your petition still active?
Yes.
Um, okay.
Yeah.
How can I get the link for that?
I can
It's on
send you all of that
Facebook.
information.
Okay,
Yeah. Yep.
perfect.
It should be there's also a link, like, in the bio of the Instagram page.
Okay,
So yeah, that would be the
awesome.
best
So,
way, just signing the petition and sharing his story as much as possible.
alrighty. Whitney, do you have anything else for Vivian?
No,
And
thank you.
Vivian,
Yeah,
yeah,
no problem.
and do you have anything else that you'd like to add or say or anything like that?
I just want to say thank you to you guys for finding Joseph's story and being open and willing to share it. And yeah, I really appreciate it.
You're
Well,
welcome.
we can't thank you enough for talking with us and being patient with us because we're struggling
We're
a little bit,
learning.
but yeah,
Yeah, it's all right. I
we're learning.
get it.
But thank you so much, and I appreciate it.
Thank you guys. No problem.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that's really all we have for Joseph's case. Vivian, again, I can't thank you enough for coming in and joining us today. We had a little bit of a rough start. We tried bringing Vivian in the day that we recorded, and it did not work out because I am not a tech wizard. And she has been so gracious and so patient with us, and I can't thank her enough for that. If Joseph's story has touched you and has pulled at your heart a little bit, please do everything that you can to help out Vivian. If you know anything, no, it's never too late. I feel like we've preached that in this podcast. It's never too late. Say something and share it with your friend, share it with your family. He needs his story out. Like I said, it's never too late. So head on over to his Facebook page, give that a like and a follow. Go to the petition, give it a sign. His Instagram, just go out and support in any way that you possibly can if this episode touched you in any way. We appreciate you and we hope that one day we can bring some kind of update in this case. Just as long as we keep sharing the story, like Vivian said, that's all that we can ask for. So I think that's all we have until next week, and I think Whitney will be bringing us another missing persons case. So get ready for that one, and we will talk to you later. Bye.